Everyone, we have another coffee with Kelly, and today we have Kylee Fitzpatrick with us. She's from TEAM Women Australia, and she has founded that great movement. So we're wanting to find out from her today more around, how did you start that up, Kylee?
Well, to start with, it was by accident. I'd just gone back to work after having my third child, and 3 kids under 3.5 was quite chaotic.
Right.
But when I went back to work, I pretty much was struggling with having to reduce my hours, no longer being in the role that I used to have. And the more I was talking with other women at work, the more they were going through the same kind of things. And there was nothing really at work that was helping women navigate that process, dealing with more the personal challenges as opposed to the professional side of things. So it was kind of just by default. I started talking with more women at work, and I ended up getting approached by some women at work who wanted me to mentor some of their women. And so I thought I'd just start. And look, ultimately what happened, we just found that there was a bunch of women who were wanting to sit together, talk about what was actually they were really dealing with and how to navigate that process. And so I just started up a mentoring group. And at the time, I just read Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In. And she had a portal on the back end of the site, and so they had community groups, and so we set up one of those. And next thing I knew, we were facilitating these monthly workshops, and we had women producing results as a result of doing that, and that's kind of how it got started.
Wonderful.
So it's a bit of a journey in my own experience that led to others, and just grew from there, basically.
How often that happens, your own challenges, and then you provide a solution or work through a solution. What are some of the challenges you found in setting that up? Or maybe even, we might start with in your corporate career, juggling family and work. That's a common challenge. What are the key challenges you found there?
Look, I think the difficult thing was adjusting to the change, because I'd been in a senior role and I'd had staff, and I was accountable for, on the executive team. So, I had a rather large accountability, had the experience of making a real difference. And after having children, I got to that point, I literally had thought to myself, I just can't keep this up anymore, not just for myself, but for the health of my kids. So I had 3 children, and I thought something's got to give. So I went back, and to drop back to 3 days a week, that was the difficult part.
So from that senior role, you've got all of that focus, and then to go to 3 days.
Now to go to 3 days, I really, I didn't probably fight as much as I could have to go back into my old role. They wanted somebody full time in that capacity.
Often happens.
It does. And I think the difficulty was doing 3 days a week they weren't set up for having somebody in those kind of roles 3 days a week. So it meant I split my role, and I took a part of the job that was allowed me to be not so, team focused and front of the business. But at the same time, it was disempowering, because I thought just because I'm doing less days doesn't mean I've got the same less brain power to make a difference. I no longer had staff. I was no longer accountable for running the leadership work, and that was all the stuff that I really loved. So that was the hard part. But the thing that helped me through that was, as soon as we did surround myself with other women who were going through the same thing, it allowed me to kind of, I suppose, navigate that process a little bit easier. And I then just started to focus on, well, what do I really want? What next? What do I want to do as a result of this change? And I think having that group helped me get through that stage.
Fantastic. Fantastic. We see this so much in our work, both of us now. It's a really difficult change to make, isn't it? And it impacts work, life, the company. It's not easy. Awesome. In terms of challenges then for setting up, so then you're working through and going, actually, what I want is maybe something different. What are some challenges there in terms of setting up TEAM Women Australia, and, then you're founding your own business or consulting?
Yeah. The challenge is definitely corporate is very different.
Yes.
And I think, the biggest lesson that I've had is to recognise that, you know, in a corporate environment, you've got a lot of resources around you. You know, so what you're able to do in a certain period of time in a corporate environment is very different to what you can do when you don't have those around you. So the thing that had to happen is I had to adjust my expectations about what I could produce in the time frame that I could produce it. See, because when you go out on your own, you're doing the HR, you're doing the technology, you're doing the administration, you're doing the product development, you're doing the marketing, you're doing everything. And the biggest lesson, I think, for all of us is to know that time frame just means that it's going to be a longer process.
Okay.
And to not feel like you do have to do it alone. And that can be difficult because you get out there, you've got these ideas and you want to do these things by yourself, but your capacity in terms of your time is less. You just have less time. So you've got to work out different ways around that. So but I think adjusting my expectations was the hardest thing. And I unfortunately, I didn't learn that straight up.
Right.
You know, I just went bull at a gate, you know, just this is what I want to do, this is how it was going to work. And I ended up getting very sick after about 12 months of exiting out of my job because I just took on far too much all at the same time. And a lot of lessons learned that I think, obviously from those lessons you realise that going that way just doesn't work.
Yeah. Yep.
But to never quit at the same time. Like I could have very easily gone, you know what, it didn't work, I'm going to go back and get my corporate job, back and get the job there I can earn a bit more money, make it a bit easier. Yep. But I've just kind of learned, well, that's not necessarily the way. I've just got to adjust my expectations, I think, what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. I love that. And stay true to yourself and what you're wanting it sounding like. Yeah.
Look, I do think one of the biggest challenges too was the money, like giving up the walking away from the money.
Great point.
Because especially with juggling children, you've got your mortgage, you've got kids, and look, 3 kids is very expensive.
Yes.
Multiply everything by 3.
Yes.
And to leave a job where you have that security on a monthly basis can be very difficult. And in hindsight, I think the best piece of advice I would give anyone is to do the work to plan your exit before you exit. Because if you don't do that, it's not what's that saying? You know, it's not all unicorns and rainbows.
No.
It's not actually that easy. You know, it looks like it from the outside, but it really isn't. Yep. So I think you've got to really plan your exit. It's just like owning a business and having an exit strategy for a business. It's a wise thing to do because at the end of the day, you need money to survive.
Yes.
And if you don't do that planning, then it makes it difficult. Now, for me, I was fortunate because when I stepped out, I'd been the main breadwinner pretty much through my marriage.
Yes.
But we got to a point where I said to my husband, you know, what if we took 12 months and I didn't earn an income for 12 months? Do you think you could step it up? And he's a cabinet maker and he's got his own business.
Right.
And I said, do you think you could invest more time there while I take care of the kids so that we don't have that burden at home? And do you think we could survive for 12 months?
Yeah.
So on that front, you know, look, I've stripped back everything. You know, we downsized the car, their home needs a lot of renovating, the walls, you know, there's things that are not done.
Yes.
But I've recognised that I have to make that sacrifice for a short period of time so that I don't feel the pressure to be getting my income levels back immediately.
Yes.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have that space to do that.
Well done on having those conversations, which is, you know, it's amazing how solutions can come from having those conversations, whereas just as women, sometimes we just take it on ourselves. No, we've got to keep earning at that amount. You know, that we have all these blocks. Whereas, okay, just have that conversation. Has your partner got that capacity?
Yep.
Can you reset your expectations? What are the priorities? Yeah.
Yeah, and I tell you, Kelly, that didn't happen alone. Like I've spent my entire life being independent, taking care of that side of things. So it wasn't until I had a coach at the time and I was really worried about money and I was seriously considering going back into the workforce, or I say corporate. And my coach said to me, he said, well, why do you need to be the one that earns the money? And that was the first time I really had a good hard look. And it was blind to me at the time, but there was an unconscious part of me that had always thought, I think it would be possible that my husband could earn a lot more money, you know, like I thought it would be possible, but then reality would hit and I go, oh, it's not, that's just not going to happen, you know, I just thought it would be too difficult. But he challenged me on it and he said, well, what if? So if I hadn't have had that, I think, and that's why I'm really committed to women surrounding themselves, because we get locked into a particular view about something.
Yes.
And then we take actions consistent with that, but we don't then explore what else. And that's where I think the gold lies.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that day in and day out. We can get so focused and we've got so much on and that we can, it's not expansive, the view. And sometimes, you know, that sounds absolutely
we play it safe,
fantastic.
Right?
Oh, exactly.
I mean, you know, at the end of the day,
I've got to keep independence. I've got to keep earning money.
Yeah.
I've got to keep doing this, keep managing all of this myself. It's like, well, actually, you are part of a broader system here.
Yeah. But that's a hard system to navigate, and I think that's where women need a lot of support, is how to make that work effectively. And I've seen some women, you know, especially when they go out, is looking to do partnerships with people, and it can be very difficult because people are after their, you know, they've got their self-interest at stake.
Yes.
And actually working out how to create partnerships that work can be very challenging.
Yep. Oh, totally. That's a whole other. I totally agree. And I was thinking there of your relationship partners, and then there's you know there's other people, some other stakeholders for certain in the corporate environment. If you're going out doing partnerships, absolutely, that's a real thing for certain. So, what advice would you give to someone, particularly in the corporate space, managing, you know, the children, trying to, you know, these career demands or career ambitions?
Yeah.
Any advice that you'd give to them?
Probably a few things.
Yes.
Overall, really believe in yourself.
Yeah.
And do the work. Do whatever you need to do to work out what it is that you do need to discover for yourself, to be able to have that confidence for yourself.
Right.
I think often we tend to second guess our own desires, so because we think we've got to provide over here, but I think if you can really trust that what you want to do and then put in place the processes to do that. So you need to do the work, you know.
Yes.
It's like you've got this, you're like, okay, I want to do this change, I'm not happy where I'm at. You know, and I'm a big believer that there's a couple of things. Yes, there's the willingness to take a risk and jump.
Yep.
But if there's any piece of practical advice, it is be willing to jump and at the same time be very clear about your boundaries, what it is you want to fulfill on and what timeline you need to be able to fulfill on that, because you do need to balance both.
The reality of that. I love that edge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now look, I only learned by mistake, right? Because I went out, I took the leap ahead of actually doing the planning, and what ended up happening was I got very sick.
Yeah.
I just worked far too hard too quickly, and because I was taking care of kids at the same time, and unfortunately ended up just getting myself to a point where I was burnt out. Ended up with a thyroid issue, you know, an autoimmune disease and things like that, which, you know, so if you don't do that work, it doesn't seem like it at the time because you feel like you've got energy and you've got passion. And I think as women, you know, we get caught on the passion. Oh, I was really passionate about this. And, you know, so then when we go do it, and then inevitably, if everything else is not in place, it's like building a house and then forgetting to lay the brickwork at the bottom, and you put up the sides and it looks fabulous, except you go to walk on the floor and all of a sudden the house crumbles. And that's kind of what it's like. So if there's anything, make sure that you mix the concrete, you look at how it needs to look at the end, and then you lay the concrete first for your health.
Solid.
Yeah. Finances and health. Make sure those two are in place, and your relationships.
Oh, it's so true.
Yeah.
It is so true. And look, I made the same, you know, there was no transition. It was stop day one, you know, corporate career, and then just immediately started up with no plan, no approach, no business model, no idea of what I was going to do. Mine was a different situation. I didn't, but wow, the learnings in that are
Yeah.
just huge.
Yeah.
And the amount of stress that puts on, because
Yeah.
there wasn't the pre-planning. I'm a massive fan of that as well. It just makes sure that you're really clear when you do make that move. You're clear, you're more confident, you've got more courage because you've tested it whilst you're already probably in corporate. You know, you've got a lot of those sorts of things. So yeah, totally agree. And the foundation, get that foundation sorted. So thank you very, very much. I think one of the key things I see with you obviously is around your storytelling and your ability to, you wanting to get people's stories out and that sort of stuff. What next can we expect with Team Women Australia?
Well, it actually comes out of the lessons that we were just talking about, actually, is how to... Storytelling is a very powerful way for women to connect.
Yes.
I mean, that's the whole purpose of storytelling, is that it gives us a real sense that we're not alone. There's other people going through the same things. And when women hear other people's stories, they get a sense of confidence and can see that something else is possible, and they start to relax a little bit more on themselves. So for us, what's next is to really lift the lid on getting more women to share their stories. And there is a real barrier to that. Like, women, it is difficult to share the sides of things that we struggle with. But if we can encourage more women to share all of those things, then it makes it easier for those on the other side to do that. But the second thing that I'd say was really critical for us is the thing that we've worked out is how to have women work together really well, which is why we call TEAM, right? It's together everyone achieves more. I know it seems cliche, right? But,
great.
But that's the thing that we've gone to work on, is how do we get women to collaborate? How do we get them to leverage their strengths? How do we get them to identify that in another person? How do we identify our gifts that work together? And if we can do that, that helps those women to stop working independently or alone and to tap into somebody else's key strengths to help them get where they want to go.
Love it. Yeah. Fantastic. Oh, we do need to do that, absolutely, because we do think a lot of the times we are sole alone person doing these challenges. We're not. Absolutely, I love that. Also, any key tips in terms of, a lot of the time, particularly when I work with corporate women, around negotiating the flexible time, negotiating that role, that strategic role. Any top tips that you would give there?
Yes.
People find it so challenging. They've found out they're having another baby. They're in the high level role. It is strategic. It has got demands. They're still wanting to give that massive contribution. What would be your top tips around that?
Well, here's what I know works. So the thing that, and I learnt this from what I didn't do, and then when I did do it, what worked. And the thing that makes a big difference is firstly doing your work on your values.
Great.
Understanding who you really are, right?
Yes.
Because when you've got confidence in yourself, there's nothing that you cannot do or nothing that you cannot say. That gives you the confidence to do that. So if you go and do the work on your own values, your own strengths, like I did the work to go back and even look at my career, to look at all of the accomplishments, what I bring. And when I have that in the background, then it's very easy for me to go in and negotiate exactly what I want.
Yes.
And then you have to be firm on that will work. And so when you know that you can deliver, then having the flexible option becomes a bit easier for the other person to manage.
Yeah.
Now, the second thing I think is very important is making sure that you're doing what works in for you. At the end of the day, this is really difficult for the employers.
It is.
As a boss, somebody who comes in and all of a sudden they want to do less hours because of their family, and then you're going to deal with that as a boss.
Yeah.
Or at the end of the day, what your boss needs to know, and certainly from me managing staff, what you need to know is that they're just going to deliver.
Yes.
So if there's a question mark, so if you go in with a doubt over your ability to deliver, that's when it starts to fall apart.
Yep.
If you go in knowing that you can deliver, you're not going to burn yourself out, then the conversation about having that work is a lot easier to have.
Yes.
Now, I'm not saying it's perfect because it depends on the environment, the culture and all the infrastructure, but if you're very firm about your values, your strengths and what you're after, and you can stand confident about being able to deliver on that result, then it's a lot easier to navigate that requirement.
Oh, absolutely. brilliant tips. And in terms of being confident in how to deliver, I see that with a lot of women, maybe their first baby, that sort of stuff. It's like going, oh, okay, well, I'm not confident that they will deliver. Let's be honest. It's a changing time.
I'm so glad you brought that up.
It's, and I just think, wow, how do they go in with that confidence? They don't know if they want more time, less time. The baby's going to be sleeping. They've got, so it's any advice there?
Oh, you know what? Absolutely. Here's the thing that I did realise, that our confidence, we end up collapsing a lack of confidence as something that's personal in ourselves, but in fact the confidence is because we're doing something that we have no idea what we're doing. So, it's like if you go and play a sport that you've never played before, of course you're not going to have confidence, right?
No.
So, but we don't, because we've spent our lives being successful and we're very confident about that, we expect that should just fall into other areas of our life. So anyone who's going back after work and having children, expect there to be, an impact on your confidence, because you're doing something you've got no idea what to do. I mean, as parents, we've got no idea. You don't get a manual to say this is how you deal with a child. The child does this and you do that. It's like, so we need to separate the two. So separate the lack of confidence is actually nothing to do with our professional capability. All it is the domain called being a parent.
Right.
So separate that. I think that would be biggest thing. Is really, you mean actually this lack of confidence is actually nothing to do with that part, and I can separate that, then I know, the confidence dissipates for sure.
Really good point. Yeah. They know that they can be confident in their work. They have been doing that beforehand, been overachieving most of the time.
Yes.
Is what I see. So they've got that confidence in that, and then just, separate, I am learning in this other part of life. But,
And look, I think too, sometimes, certainly from what I saw with a lot of the women that were in this group that we were running, is they're just not free to express that they're not confident there. So it's okay to say to your boss, look, I'm lacking confidence in this area because it's not something I've done before. Because you're actually not saying that you're not confident at work. What you're actually saying is you are dealing with stuff where there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of, and that will have an effect on your ability to feel a lack of confidence. But your boss is going to be okay with that. It's only when you start to present yourself as an overall, I'm failing, I'm not doing this right, and then they start to think, well, that's what, in your job?
In all areas. Got that. That is a really good point. That's a really good point. And in terms of feeling that confidence of being able to deliver in that role, then key challenges are, what are the key challenges that you see in that area?
Communication.
Yes. Okay.
Communicating, not pretending to have things handled. If you're not delivering, don't try and cover it up. Don't try and force yourself to work longer hours. If you know, big one I have, and a good example, somebody could see that they weren't actually going to deliver something on the time they did, but rather than tell their boss and say, I need an extension, or here, I'm going to be a few days late with this, and readjust it, they spent their weekend working the entire weekend, which had a massive impact on their family, their relationship with their partner, their relationship with their kids, because they were so overwhelmed and stressed that it literally had the opposite effect. So when they went back to work, they were stressed back at work because they had tried to jam it in, and then their relationships at home were not working because of trying to jam it in. So we have to be able to communicate more effectively about what we're dealing with, and to not fear that if we say we need an extension on something, that there's going to be a threat to losing our job.
Yes. Yep. I love that. And how many times do we just see that it's more hours? More hours is going to solve the problem.
That's right.
More hours doesn't. And for a lot of my clients, they might be sometimes they might be doing a 3-day week because they're doing other things, looking after kids, doing other X, Y, Z. You're getting paid that. Yeah. You're getting paid less. You're getting paid for benefits, right? Yeah. So you're not getting paid for all these extra days and extra hours either. Right. And so I coach them on those conversations in terms of, okay, well, you are getting paid only 60% of, a full-time person. It is going to take you, 60% of the time. Yeah. So... Yeah, but we still have those full-time expectations of
Yes.
ourselves, and even more so. You know, we think, oh my goodness, you know, I've got to be even more than the full-time person.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, it's
Yeah,
just unrealistic.
it really is. And you know, I mean, I think all of us would admit that in a corporate environment, have you ever had that experience where people push you onto a deadline,
Yes.
and then you push yourself to that deadline, and all of a sudden that person ends up sick? Or they turn around and say, oh, actually such and such is rescheduled, so we're not going to do it now. And then you end up frustrated because you've just spent all your time pushing.
Yes.
And you think at the end of the day, if you can think in hindsight like the way we do, think back to those times where that happens. Is it going to be earth-shattering or life-altering if you make a request to have something put back for 24 hours, 48 hours? Ultimately, never is. Now, look, I've worked in the media industry for 20 years, I tell you, right? So I've worked on deadline-driven stuff for a very long time, and it's always this product has to be in the market at this date and this date, and this has to be done at this date. And
Yes.
I tell you, in my experience, obviously apart from having to put a newspaper out on a certain day,
Yes.
but even things like launching a digital platform,
Yes.
is it going to be earth-shattering if it's 24 hours later than what it is? The reality is most of the things that we're doing are internally focused, and
Yes.
therefore you can have a conversation with somebody to adjust the timeline if it means that you're going to manage a whole lot of other things at the same time and do it well.
And the quality's better.
That's right.
For everybody.
That's right. Half the time they're probably just as relieved that you've actually done it, you know? It's like they're just as busy as well, you know?
That's right.
Oh, thank God I've got another 24 hours in my schedule to not have to do that, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're so right. That's amazing. Thank you so much
Oh,
for
you're
those.
welcome.
That's really, really awesome. Really appreciate it. And we'll keep in touch and keep
Yeah.
following all the great work that you're doing. Thanks, Kylie.
Thank you.